Hello everybody, this is Fun Police bringing you another fire and maneuver update. For today, I'm going to cover the just released today update 1.1. I'm just going to simply talk you through it because it has a mixture of balance changes and some new stuff that's really nice. But to start out, the patch fixes a bunch of different bugs. I'm not going to go over those specifically because some of them are quite minor, and it would just overall make the video 10 minutes longer for not a whole lot of content. So if you're interested in it, it is in the patch notes, so you can go look at it on Steam and you'll be able to see that. But let's talk about the more interesting thing, and that is the balance changes. Balance changes has affected pretty much every nation, changing some pretty significant units and overall altering a whole bunch of stuff. And we'll just head down the list, and we'll start off with the first change, and that is units with 3 cohesion all have been reduced by 5 points. So they're 5 points cheaper to bring in. This for many nations simply means their militias are 5-point cheapers. However, there is also, I think, the biggest nation that benefits from this is the USA, because it has access to a whole host of 3 points, from the Volunteers to the Zouaves to the Irish Brigade. These are all now 5 points cheaper. So I would say that overall this is the biggest, this is overall a buff that is the biggest for the USA, because it can more realistically spam out some of its lighter units and be more cost effective in that manner. Another change that has happened in the game is that efficiency has been slightly nerfed. It now costs 5 more points, meaning that any unit that has efficiency costs 5 more points to bring. This hits a fair amount of nations, but I would say definitely the heaviest nation that's hit is the Confederate States of America. This faction, or this nation, is built around a lot of units having them. In fact, pretty much all of their infantry have it, and many of their cavalry does also. So this overall nerfs the Confederates a fair bit, making them all 5 points more. Now, it's not the biggest change or the biggest game-ending nerf, but it definitely is going to slightly weaken this and also makes efficiency a little bit less powerful. It's still really good, though, so I expect it to remain a common and very popular trait that people will want to take, even if it costs a little more. We also have a temporary nerf to heavy artillery, most notably things like the modern guns, such as the 21 Krupp mortar. It has a limit of 2 on it now. It's, as said in the patch notes, this was a temporary fix in order to reduce people's ability to sit in the corner of a map and just spam artillery, essentially killing anything that gets close to them. The devs mentioned that there is likely to be an introduction of objective-based game modes, which would also fix this corner camping problem, but for right now, a band-aid has been put on it, and this mainly hits the 3 units. Most notably, the Prussians suffer from it, but the British and the Russians also lose out on their modern artillery, having it capped at 2. It's overall a little bit less problematic. Like, you're still able to corner camp pretty efficiently, so that's not the most ideal thing, and I hope that in the next update we do see objectives, or at least something that makes it so corner camping isn't like the viable strategy, because it's really boring and cheesy. Like, it's essentially just for the one player sitting in the corner, they're passing their turns until you attack them, and as the attacker, if you do choose to attack, you gotta hope that you win out in certain areas or you just lose. I think it's a really boring strategy, and I hope that something is done about it. But this is at least making it a little more bearable. Then another change is that the 2 US factions, the Union and the Confederates, have had their light cavalry equipped with a variety of carbines as their baseline. In practicality, this doesn't do a whole lot. It makes sense historically, but in all honesty, this doesn't affect their really their effect anything really, because you can simply just still give them sabers or the lower powered carbines. Uh, so it doesn't do a whole lot in terms of balance outside of making it a little more awkward to build an army involving them. But otherwise, it's a minor thing. However, then we have a pretty big change to the Austrian Empire, who's seen a handful of changes. Most notably, its German line infantry has received the melee drill perk, meaning that they've gone up 15 points in order to have that trait, but they now are better in melee. They're essentially the same thing as the Zouaves that are seen in many other nations. On top of that, the elite heavy infantry, the Hawk and Duschmeisters, has seen their ability shuffled around. They still have efficiency, however, they have lost range drill in favor of a melee drill perk and a shock perk. So they're now much better in terms of charges and melee combat, but no longer have bonus range damage, which means that their powerful rifles with double shot and increased range is less powerful. This is overall, I think, changing up Austria to be a little more unique. Previously, Austria felt kind of like France too, and this one shifts them in a bit more of a unique direction. They have stronger melee units in their lines, alongside the still pretty effective Jaeger troops that can be their powerful range options. I think it's a good thing to make them stand out a bit more. I do think that overall the Hawk have been nerfed a little bit, while the German line infantry have actually been buffed a little bit. So I think it overall levels out, and I think Austria is still a pretty good nation, but they probably will feel the nerf to the Hawk overall, because range drill's really, really strong on units with efficiency, especially with such a well-statted one. So losing that hurts a little bit, but I think the combination of shock and melee drill means that these guys are actually really good in charges. If you're able to charge in, deal a fair amount of damage, and then you're not going to take any damage because of melee drill, that's pretty powerful. But that is the change for the Austrian units. Then we also have a whole bunch of cost changes for cavalry. So all light cavalry now cost 10 more points. These light infantry or light cavalry are pretty much the ones with 3 speed, but these are all 10 points more expensive. So they're going to be less cost effective and more in line with other units. This could potentially allow artillery to be a little more useful outside of the heavy modern ones that people were abusing. But because cavalry is not going to be as cost effective in countering artillery, we could see something there. But in general, I still expect light cavalry to be quite powerful. Then the last balance patch that came around was that 2-speed cavalry have had their cost cut by 15 points. So they're now very, very cheap. And this is quite nice because heavy cavalry up until this point has not really seen any real use. The reason being is that light cavalry was so cost effective you could get around the back of enemies and charge into them. But now heavy cavalry might have a bit more purpose, because in comparison, you can see that the heavy cavalry, these cuirassiers, are cheaper than the hussars. So there might be more purpose to take heavy infantry now, or heavy cavalry, I should say, within various factions. It's all something to try out. Overall, I really like these changes. I think it's making the nation stand out a bit more, and I think it's overall a good change. Now, let's quickly head into a quick private lobby in order to show off a couple other things. First off, we have some new maps. 3 new maps are available within the game. We have a 1v1 called the Frontier, which is a snow map. We also have a new 2v2 map called the Delta. It is a desert map with a river running through it. And then we also have, for the American Civil War, Antietam, which is a historical map for the one of the bloodiest battles in the American Civil War, producing the single bloodiest day in American history. But it is a historically accurate map, which is quite interesting. Those are the three new maps that have been added. We also have something called a dynamic game speed, where essentially the game will shift when battles are happening and shift what type of perspective you have. So, for example, if everybody is just moving around, the game speed will automatically be on instant, so you don't have to wait around for 10 minutes for everybody to move. Then it might switch to balanced if a couple units are shooting, or it might even go cinematic if everybody is shooting. Seems like it's a cool addition that will allow for those tense moments to be climactic without also having to sit around forever. I think it's a cool addition. Then probably the biggest thing for me is that random quick match now has access to a pool of map boards. So, for example, we're not going to just have River Path for every single match. We're going to see, hopefully, stuff like Tartar Junction, Poplar Station, Mil Azo, and various other maps in 1v1s, which I think is really nice. I was getting kind of bored of the river map and it being the same thing and people kind of doing the same thing over and over. So I think that's a good addition. Other than that, we have some quality of life changes, which we will quickly jump into a game to show off. Let's just take a super basic setup. It doesn't even need to be really good. All right, let's get into it. But there's a couple changes that are really, really nice that I'm very happy are being added to the game, because it's going to make the game a lot easier to read and understand. So probably the biggest thing that you'll notice if you've played the game before is that there's these new pips at the bottom of it. And these pips are really nice because they are essentially telling you how many fire orders and how many movement orders units still have. So, for example, if we take this first regiment and move it, one of those blue pips moves away. So now that tells me that I only have one movement left. Then if I change it again, the second one goes away and I could still fire. But see, now I've used up my fire, which is the orange one, and now this unit doesn't have any more actions. So it's a lot easier to tell pretty much what the hell your units are doing. And that's really nice. I really like that. I'm so glad that this got added. It was always a bit confusing when I couldn't tell what unit still has actions if I've assigned it properly, especially while under timer. So other things, there is also hotkeys now. So for example, I can press the F key and I can bring up the fire button, or I can do various other things such as swapping in reserves and various other different effects based on just the various hotkeys. So that's really nice. Definitely also useful if you're playing in a quicker match where you have a short time limit. Otherwise, there's some other things like melee. You're not able to shoot anymore. You can't shoot while in melees and various other things. But that is the main thing, is the ability to see what orders your units have left. So let's just get out of this match. And then, as I said before, there was a bunch of bug fixes, but overall, this is a really nice patch. I like that the balance changes has, I think, buffed up a couple of the maybe weaker nations and also expanded the variety of what the nations can do. I think Austria, even though it maybe got a little bit of a nerf, is a lot more interesting now, and instead of just being France again, and I think that's really good. And then the bug fixes are great. There's a lot of bugs still in the game, but being early access and seeing hopefully more patches, that'll all be fixed in due time. New maps is great. I like that quick play is now not going to be as boring. I'm overall really happy with the patch, especially seeing as this is only about a week after the early access came out. So even if we have to wait maybe 2 weeks for another patch, I'm happy. And as long as they continue to change it, I'm really excited to see as more stuff gets added. But otherwise, that is all I have for you today. Just a quick overview of what the patch has. I was planning on making a video over some nation guides, but with these changes, some stuff is being shuffled around. So if you want to see more Fire Maneuver content, make sure to like and subscribe, because I'm going to do at least a couple more videos and keep in pace with the game, because I'm really enjoying it at the moment. But otherwise, that is it. Comment down below if you have played Fire and Maneuver. Are you interested in what's your favorite faction? I'm always curious to see, because we have 9 different factions. Which one are you kind of maining right now? I'm curious to see. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.